Welcome to California Edition. My name is Brad Pomerance. I'm glad you're with us today. Our guest is Jacque Robinson. She is a member of the Pasadena City Council, and we've been speaking a lot lately about various propositions. Jacque is here today to speak about one proposition. No, it's not Prop 30, the Governor's Tax Initiative, or Prop 38, Molly Munger's Tax Initiative. It's Prop 32, which is what?
Prop 32.
Don't give us your position yet. Just tell us what it is.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, Prop 32 is an effort to say that unions and labor contributors will not be able to participate in the democratic process in the state of California.
So you gave us a little bit of a biased version of it, but I want to get a sense of just the top line.
It's basically aiming to supposedly stop special interest influence in political campaigns throughout the state.
And if you look at the initiative, as I understand it, if you just kind of look at the front page, the title page, what it says is that unions and corporations will no longer be able to contribute to California campaigns. Is that accurate? The title page.
That is totally inaccurate. And if you read the fine print, you will see why.
That's my point. That's my point.
You will see why.
So clearly Ms. Robinson, Councilwoman Robinson, is against Prop 32, and she wants to come on to discuss that. But talk to us about why you're in opposition. I actually, the LA Times came out with an article. It's pretty damning. Prop 32, a wolf in sheep's clothing, the lie behind Prop 32.
Well, the article is very accurate, and again, people can read the initiative for themselves, but essentially what it says is that labor unions will not be able to participate in the democratic process that we all have a right to, because they will no longer be able to collect monies from their members through payroll deduction.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because the way unions collect, is it only dues, or is it
political contributions from union members, which are at this date and time they're completely voluntary by union members. They have to get permission.
And the Supreme Court recently affirmed that, the U.S. Supreme Court. So what this would do is it would prevent unions from including that box.
Well, it says that it prevents those contributions by payroll deduction.
Period.
But we all know that unions are the only entities in the state that have to get that voluntary clearance or authorization from their members. And so we know that corporations, their political activity is funded by profits, and they don't have to receive permission from their employees. And those that do actually go to obtain permission from employees, it's a very small number. So
as I understand it, the opponents are concerned that because the only way unions can collect dues is through the checkoff, and corporations don't have to engage in that path, that it disarms the union movement.
Yes.
Could union...
It's totally disingenuous to say that it's going to stop special interests, because the initiative itself is a special interest, because if you look at the documentation, you'll see that it's pretty well funded by high wealth individuals that have the ability to contribute more than $200,000 to the Yes campaign.
Mm-hmm. If you look at the union movement today, though, it's taken some hits. And I'm wondering if the public, as we talk today in 2012, is continuing to see the purported benefits of union membership. If you think about what happened in Wisconsin, for example, a fairly blue state, when the governor of that state rolled back collective bargaining, folks had expected that he would be turned out of office, but he was reaffirmed in a recall. On the pension debate, we know that public employee unions are getting a lot of hits about the alleged sweetheart deals that they made. Again, this isn't what I'm saying. What's your sense?
Well, my sense is that California is a very different state, number one. And number two, we know that membership in labor unions is the way that the working class gets into middle class. I come from a union family. My father is a retired cement mason. My mother is a postal worker. And so to say that union membership and their ability to participate in the democratic process as a group by essentially pooling their resources as individuals to be able to participate in the political process in California is just a slap in the face, because individual efforts are not special interests. These are people that have families, kids to care for, seniors, and this is their way of participating in the political process when we know that corporations are outspending unions even with the participation that they have now on a 15-to-1 basis.
No, I know that prior attempts have been made in this vein via proposition. They were defeated.
Yes.
But it was a different time, different election, not a presidential cycle. And, you know, we're so focused right now on the presidential race. We're focused upon Prop 30, Prop 38. How clearly this is an important issue to you, I'm sure to the yes side as well. How are you going to get voters to focus on Prop 32?
Well, I think it's up to, you know, myself as a local elected official, you know, to get the word out, and, you know, all things not necessarily being equal,
right.
But again, people can go out and read the information on their own and make their own decision, look at the facts, and hopefully in the end decide that no on Prop 32 is the way to go.
When you speak with your voters, you're a member of the Pasadena City Council, and you talk to them, the issue is, you know, it's fairly esoteric. It's complicated. Like I said, I mean, I was, you know, poking fun a bit, but, you know, the title page looks great.
Yes.
You know, for generally speaking, you know, I don't know the intricacies. This is your argument. I'm just, you know, the traffic cop. It's when you open it up that you believe that's where it gets a little dicey.
Right, and
so,
like you mentioned, there's a lot of issues going on in the state of California before. This is essentially a down ticket item
right.
in the grand scope of the presidential elections, the tax initiative, and everything else going on. But it's incumbent on everyone to get educated and know that this is just as important as the other initiatives and elections that will be on the ballot in November.
We know that Governor Brown, who is a Democrat,
yes.
is strongly supporting his Prop 30. Arguably, unions are more friendly to Democrats. That's not to say that they've never supported Republicans, because we know they have.
Yes, and many unions actually have a Republican group of their membership
of course.
that are publicly Republicans.
So my question, though, is, you know, this really could impact the face of California politics. Will Governor Brown, do you know, will the Democratic Party, do you know, be engaged on this issue? Or are they going to be so singularly focused on Prop 30?
I believe the Democratic Party has already taken a no position on 32 as well. I don't know Governor Brown's position, but again, I think even if you have a mind to lean toward the yes sides, you have to think about the democratic process and the rights that we are all entitled to under the democratic process, and that should be one voice, one vote. And this seeks to undermine that process by eliminating a certain section of society that basically you're telling them you have no right to be involved in the democratic process.
Well, they can be. I mean, it's just more difficult to collect funds.
We all know money is the mother's milk of politics.
That's what Jess
and
Unruh
if you
said.
are telling labor unions and members that you cannot participate in the process because as individuals perhaps you can't afford to mount a strong campaign, but together pooling your resources you can, and that's eliminating that option.
What about, you know, I'm going to take your argument at your word. I'm going to take you at your word, I should say. I mean, what would you feel as if it was a pure initiative, which is no corporate money, no union money? I don't know. It's hypothetical, I know.
Very hypothetical. You know, I don't necessarily know that that's the way to go either, but I do know that eliminating one entire segment of society's voice is not the right way to go at all.
As we look towards November, how are you feeling about Prop 32? Be honest.
I'm feeling good about it. You know, there's many organizations out there that are fighting on the no side of the campaign.
I mean, on Twitter, it is, I mean, literally Twitter is being just burned up with no on 32.
So a strong no presence is being created. And
is there money?
There is money. And again, this is one of the situations where if Prop 32 passes, there will not be that opportunity to reach, educate.
Are you a lawyer?
No.
So I am a lawyer, I'm sorry. But I wonder if if it does pass, if there's a constitutional challenge here. You know, because like you said, I mean, is there an equal protection argument? I'm sorry to bore you, but is there an equal protection argument on this?
I think there could be a strong case for it, actually.
Right.
I think there could be a very strong case
her name is
for it.
Jacque Robinson. She is a member of the Pasadena City Council. When we come back, we'll be speaking with Polly Lowe. She is a member of the Rosemead City Council. My name is Brad Pomerance. We'll be right back on Charter California Edition. Welcome back to Charter California Edition. My name is Brad Pomerance. Our guest today is Polly Lowe. She is the Mayor Pro Tem of the city of Rosemead. For our viewers, where is Rosemead? Tell us about it.
Well, Rosemead is in the San Gabriel Valley.
Sure.
It's about 5 square miles. And we're about 10 minutes east of downtown.
And it has some of the best Chinese food around. Is
Yes.
that fair to say? Am I allowed to say that?
It is, it is.
It is so incredibly tasty. Now, I want to speak with you about an issue facing so many cities in the state of California, and that is redevelopment. It was a tool that was used to improve blighted areas. Many argue it had been a successful tool, but as you know, the state eliminated it last year. The California Supreme Court upheld that elimination. Talk to me about how Rosemead had used redevelopment, and then we'll talk about the challenges facing Rosemead.
Okay. So yes, it is a very powerful tool for cities to be able to eliminate blight and be able to stimulate, economic growth. For the city of Rosemead, what we have done in the past, we have used redevelopment money to like they built the Garvey Community Center, beautiful center.
Sure.
Yes, and was able to also subsidize some of the senior housing. We have also used it for a walking trail in the Rosemead Park. So we have used it well.
Right. I mean, there are some cities that had been accused of using it not so well,
Right.
to develop golf courses, to balance their budgets in a way that really didn't deal with redevelopment. But is it fair to say in your mind that those really were exceptions and not rules?
Right, and unfortunately, when you have even one or two of those cases, that sort of give the legislature and as well the governor the reason for removing redevelopment. It's very unfortunate.
What portion of Rosemead's budget was part of redevelopment, and how did redevelopment contribute to the budget of Rosemead?
Well, actually, it helps the budget a lot in terms of we had about $7 million. Even though out of the $7 million, about 25% have to go to some of the governmental agencies such as school districts.
Pass-throughs.
Right. And another like 20% have to be allocated to the low and moderate, housing, the project programs. But still, we still have about 3.8 million that the city can use to increase our economic growth.
But you don't have that anymore.
Yeah, and that's what hurts.
Yeah,
it really hurts.
And it's interesting, San Bernardino, which is not far from Rosemead, maybe 30 miles east, they recently declared bankruptcy. And Mayor Patrick Morris said on the record that one of the reasons his city was forced into bankruptcy, one of many, or actually not one of many, one of a couple, is because of the elimination of redevelopment.
Yes, it hurts a lot of cities. I think in California, out of the 480 cities, there's about 400 of them have the redevelopment agency.
So what is Rosemead doing, for example, to close, would it be an almost $4 million hole that it has because that redevelopment funding is just gone?
Right. So some of the projects, we are on hold. We're waiting for the trailer bill to pass.
So let's talk about that because I think it's important. After the California Supreme Court upheld the elimination of redevelopment and refused to put a stamp of approval on a compromise that would have allowed cities to keep redevelopment agencies open if they gave some money back to the state, some bills were being submitted to try to revive redevelopment in some form. But as we speak today, those bills haven't had much success.
We're still waiting. There's a process that we have to go through. We have to identify all the projects. We have to have oversight committee to approve. So we're going through that process. So we are hoping that we will be able to get at least some of that money back.
Because as I understand it, what the state has done is they have said if projects were, and the definition is a little hazy, were in the pipeline before, I guess would it be June 2011, they will let those projects move forward with redevelopment money that is taken from property taxes. Otherwise, no go.
Right, and we're really hoping that will happen because we actually, in our city, we have a case where in our kind of civic center, we actually have done 2 areas that's improved. And then we have this one area right now, it just kind of looks really bad because the money is on hold. So it's just kind of like, you know, we already have that planned out, and then all of a sudden, yeah, the funding stopped.
Now, as you know, some of your sister cities in the San Gabriel Valley, I think it was Glendale, Pasadena, Burbank, I'm not sure if it was all three or a combination of those, they actually sued the state because the state had said, we're not going to let you use these funds because the state was arguing these were not pre-June 2011 monies. I guess they're trying to settle the matter, but the state is taking a very hard line on this issue.
Yeah, so we're hoping, we're working with, you know, different assembly members,
right,
state senator to, you know, hope to work with them so that they can help us and show them that, look, you know, this is a case where we already have projects
right
in the pipeline. You know, right now we just come to that stop.
Now, did your redevelopment agency own any property, any buildings? Because as I understand it, those need to be sold.
Yeah, we, I believe we don't own any buildings. However, we have two senior housing that in the past we subsidized
right,
the rent.
And
so that's going to hurt. I mean, if you don't have that money coming in.
Well, that's an interesting point. I know Senator Darrell Steinberg, who's the pro tem, has proposed legislation that would allow some form of at least an affordable housing component survive.
Yes.
But as we speak,
we're still waiting.
We still don't know.
Right.
I want to talk more generally about municipalities and the challenges facing municipalities in California. I mentioned San Bernardino. We know Stockton has declared bankruptcy. Mammoth Lakes declared bankruptcy, but for reasons that dealt with a piece of litigation. But both in the Stockton case and the the San Bernardino case, those cities have said the elimination of redevelopment was part of the reason, the economic downturn was part of the reason, but also the weight of employee compensation.
Yes.
Which includes salaries and pensions. I am not suggesting that Rosemead is at risk. I don't want to say that. Maybe it is, but I don't know that to be the case. But talk to me about those challenges.
Well, actually, the city of Rosemead, I think we sort of lucked out.
Oh, did you?
And we work very hard with the employees. So, and I think, I often say, you know, when it comes to tough time, it's really a team effort. What the city of Rosemead have done, we work with employees. We were able to downsize, you know, unfortunately. We did downsize, but we probably about 20% less number of employees than 2009.
Wow. That's
however,
remarkable in 3 years, 4 years.
But we did not have any layoff. It was all through attritions and early retirement. So it helps. And also we work with the employees and kind of have their buy-in that basically we freeze salary increase.
But what about the pension side? Because that, as I understand it, in the last decade, what a lot of bargaining units were saying is, we won't push for salary increases, but we'd like our benefit packages to be sweetened. And so that has caused tremendous challenges because they were sweetened because, you know, city council, oh yeah, we don't have to pay money now, it'll be in the future, but now the future's here.
No, I think for City of Rosemead, we were able to look at the future. We kind of look at, if we do it this way, it's going to cost more money down the line.
Right.
So we actually have made some adjustment in terms of benefit.
Do you have a two-tier system now, or are you still on one package but just adjusting accordingly?
I'm not sure on that one.
Right.
Yeah.
So as you look forward to Rosemead, to sister cities in the San Gabriel Valley, do you see a general vibrancy, an economic health in your municipalities? Because look, the IE is not far, and we know the IE has had some real challenges.
Well, I feel that I think for the San Gabriel Valley, we have a lot of opportunities, actually. We need to take advantage of those opportunities. We need to sell ourselves, you know, to developers, to investors that, look, you know, your business can survive in City of Rosemead. And we've been working with staff to how do we make the process a lot faster,
you can't give them tax incentives anymore.
Right. So to me is, okay, right now, City of Rosemead have the same, you know, same level playing field with other cities now.
True.
Right? So, but what I have always asked staff, I'm sure my staff I always get on my staff's case, like, we need to be efficient. We need to be business friendly. Right? How do you help developers? How do you help the business community so that encourage them to come in?
I want to thank you so much for joining us. She is Polly Lowe, Mayor Pro Tem of Rosemead. I'm Brad Pomerance. We'll be right back on Charter California Edition. Welcome back to California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Our guest, Phil Hu, he is a member of the school board at San Gabriel Unified, which is essentially in the city of San Gabriel, a few straggling streets.
Yes,
you have about 6,000 students. The school year recently started. How's it going?
It's going great. It's going great. Of course, you know, the state budget, everyone's worried about that. I think everyone has an eye out for November, seeing how the initiatives go.
Well, let's get right into it, because obviously that is the topic of the day, and that is the education crisis in our great state of California. We know over the last few years, as a result of budget crisis after budget crisis, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars have been cut from education. How has that impacted San Gabriel Unified?
You know, I have to be honest with you on this. We have done a pretty good job in terms of managing, you know, the slash in funding.
Are you basic aid, or you get your money from the state?
We get our money from the state. When I was elected in 2009, we had, I think, now don't hold me to this, right? I think our annual budget was roughly about 53 or 54 million. We are now operating on about 45. So
that's a significant cut.
It is a significant cut.
And has enrollment stayed the same, increased, decreased?
Enrollment, I think, has decreased a little bit, but that's kind of on par with all of the other school districts. Every school district, I think, is losing a little bit of ADA.
Now, LAUSD, for example, over the last few years has cut 18 days in their school year. Have you cut any days yet? We
initially negotiated some furlough days, but we were fortunate enough, you know, during the last
cycle.
Yeah, during the last mid-year adjustment, we were able to kind of give all that stuff back.
Okay, so let's look forward. We have a couple of initiatives on the ballot that deal with education funding. Prop 30, the governor's initiative. Prop 38, Molly Munger's initiative. What the governor has said about Prop 30 is, if it does not pass, 3 weeks from school years could be cut. Do you agree with that analysis? Does that make sense to you?
In terms of cutting 3 weeks out of the school year, I think that's how he views. That's, I think, how he sees an option to handle the millions that will be taken away. Each individual school district and each individual school site, I think, will have to figure out how best to handle the cuts and absorb them.
Well, have you or the school board as a body taken a position on Prop 30?
As a board, we have not.
Has Phil Hu taken a position on Prop 30?
Phil Hu has.
What is that position, if I may ask?
I am definitely going to vote in favor of passing.
Why?
I think we need to be honest with ourselves. I think Californians need to really take a good, close, honest look at our educational system and at our budget priorities. You know, I mean, I don't know about you, but in my own household, the budget isn't just money, right? The budget is about priorities, what we think is more important. On average, statistically, California spends, I think, about $5,000 some odd per student per year.
Well, we're about 47th or 48th per pupil spending.
Right. I mean, you know,
we're California.
Yeah, we're California, and I think there's only 5 states that spend less than we do, and we're California.
Depending how you look at the math.
Right.
So what's interesting is that California does place a value on education. And as I've said in previous interviews, we're a fairly blue state when it comes to social issues, but fiscally, California has not loved taxing itself. The last time the state passed a statewide tax initiative was in 2004. We had an initiative on the ballot in June to increase taxes on cigarettes. Failed. We didn't even pass a tax on smokers. So
a lot of smokers must have turned out to vote.
Exactly. So, but looking towards November, you know, look, I mean, the picture is not pretty, according to Governor Brown, if Prop 30 doesn't pass. Are you feeling bullish on its potential for passage?
I don't know. This is a tough call. I mean, you know, anytime you have 2 initiatives, and thank goodness there's only 2, because I think there were 3, you know, before. Anytime you have 2 or 3 initiatives on the same issue, I think, you know, you're looking at splitting votes.
Let's talk about those, because I think it's important we make a distinction. The governor's initiative, Prop 30, would increase sales tax by ¼ cent for 4 years, increase taxes on the wealthy for 7 years. That's his initiative. Prop 38, Molly Munger's initiative, would increase income taxes on everyone, sliding scale 0.4% to 2.2%, depending on income. But with Molly Munger's initiative, I think virtually all that money goes to education. I mean, maybe that's better.
I think it depends on how you really how you pick that apart. I believe the language says that money raised goes to education purely.
It's the lockbox. It's Al Gore's lockbox.
Right. Whereas the governors, it goes back, I think, to the general fund. They say they're going to give it back to education. I am currently favoring the governor's proposal a little more because I believe Molly Munger's covers K-12 and leaves community colleges where where I'm teaching.
You're a teacher, professor
right.
through his college.
And the UCs and states out of that. Whereas on the governor's side, it's a much wider.
I know you're here as a trustee, but can we talk about community colleges briefly?
Sure.
Because as we know, California community colleges specifically had one of the largest spikes. I think it was the largest spike in the nation last year in terms of tuition increases. It has been very difficult. It was $26 a unit, then it went to $36 a unit, now it's $46 a unit. And so how is that impacting your students?
Students are struggling. I mean, my students at Cerritos College, I imagine most students who go to community colleges are there for very specific reasons. Right. And community colleges, I teach at one, so I always brag. The UCs and the state systems talk about serving the top 10% of students. Community colleges, we stake our pride in serving the top 100% of students. Right.
And what's interesting is, when we were younger, folks who went to community colleges, and I'm making a generalization, were the ones that couldn't get their act together in high school. But now, we're getting to a point where it's so expensive to go to UC or CSU that students, bright students, are being directed to community colleges, go there for 2 years, and then matriculate to UCLA or Cal State, LA, or whatever it is. But what's more frightening for some students is they go to community college for 2 years, but it lasts for 3 or 4 because they can't get the classes because classes are being cut.
Right. I actually cracked a joke, with my students earlier, and I said, when you guys are ready to transfer 6 years from now, and there was this kind of an uneasy laughter through the room. They know I'm joking, but there's, underneath, there's a very palpable feel for them that it might take at least 3 or 4 years. The first day of classes, I have a class that has a 30 maximum enrollment. I have 30 enrolled. I had 10 on a wait list, and then I had 20 students coming in just hoping.
Can you take more? Are you allowed? I mean, is there a law?
We are allowed to take, to absorb a few more in, but here's what's happened at Cerritos College, and I'm pretty sure it's happened in other community college districts. We used to absorb, anywhere from like maybe 1 or 2 or 3 students over the limit, right? But what that's done is, if you think about this, if I absorb 3 students for one class, right, extra 3 students, if 9 of my other colleagues do the same thing, that's 30 students we've absorbed into our existing classes. Whereas that could have been 30 students we sent down and said, listen, there is a demand, there's another class we can open up. So what's happened at Cerritos specifically is we've cut about 20% of classes across the board over the last 3.5, 4 years.
You're not unique.
So, if we use perfect numbers, if we offered 100 sections, now we're only offering 80. If we would have been spending time building capacity beforehand, we could have been cutting from, I don't know, 150.
So I want to get a sense from you, I mean, as a member of a school board in the San Gabriel Valley, what are your constituents saying about the education system, be it K-12, community college? The vote's not that far away. And, yes, the polls have Prop 30 ahead, but look, so was the cigarette tax. It was ahead. Are your constituents looking towards voting yes? And again, I'm just asking. I'm not advocating, endorsing. I'm just asking.
I don't know what the general murmur out there is. I can tell you San Gabriel is very unique in the sense that we have an incredibly involved parent community. They give time in the classrooms, they give money to PTAs, they give money to our foundation.
Some beautiful neighborhoods in San Gabriel.
There are.
They're really, I have a friend who lives there. She's on the board of San Marino. I mean, this is beautiful.
It is very nice.
And great food. I mean, I can't help but say it, but I just spoke with Polly Lowe from Rosemead. She also has great food in her community.
I think it's probably got the best Asian food.
I'm just saying. Are you going to take me to lunch?
Sure.
Okay. His name is Philip Hu. He is a member of the school board at San Gabriel Unified School District. My name is Brad Pomerance. We thank you so much for watching California Edition.